Today, I want to talk about three short topics. The first is what I call shame brain. This is my title, and feel free to use it. I think the term really fits for a lot of people. So, let me describe shame brain. If we have a lot of shame or grew up in a home with a steep shame culture, we can come away with what I call shame brain. So shame brain uh, looks like this. This is my description of it. The qualities that I see. It's seeing things in black and white, all good, all bad, versus along a spectrum where most of humans actually fall. It includes oversimplifying things and not seeing the nuance or the complexity. It includes expecting things to work out in a very neat, formulaic way, such as you be good and everything will go good for you, versus real life messiness. It includes having unrealistic expectations of yourself and others, what we might call perfectionism, and the need to defend ourselves when we have made a mistake versus admit that we have made a mistake and therefore learn from it, as well as just paranoia. Paranoia when you do make a mistake, paranoia about the fact that you might make a mistake, paranoia in general because you just don't really trust other people, especially not to shame you. So, those are some qualities that I have found with people who have shame brain or, again, grew up in a shame culture. There's another term I want to introduce to you, which I like to call shame blindness. And this is similar. There's some overlap, but there's some differences as well. Shame blindness happens with people who have a lot of shame. And these are the symptoms: an inability to hear anything that infers they might be slightly wrong in any way, an inability to see themselves, what we call introspection or self awareness, a hostile response to questions because they believe that person is attempting to shame them. There's a lack of trust, and therefore there's no such thing with this person who has all this shame as an honest question. So you might just be asking them a real honest question like, hey, do you know where I might be able to park my car if you're not going to let me park it in this spot? And they're going to respond to that in a very hostile manner because they don't trust that your question is legitimate or honest. An inability to remember things that they have said or done. We can also call this denial because this is what denial actually manifests as, is an inability to remember. You can quote this person verbatim back to them and they will say, I have no memory of saying that. You can reflect back to this person exactly what they did and they will tell you, they will look you in the eyes and say, I have no memory of doing that. My daughter recently confronted a former friend. She met with this friend at a park and she challenged her on something. She held her accountable for some things. This friend responded to that challenge by screaming, literally screaming. And this was again at a park. So it drew attention from other people. It was in a public space. A week later, when my daughter met again with this former friend to follow up and to see where that challenge, where it led, the friend told her when she was reminded of her scream, the friend said she had no memory of screaming. Now, my daughter and a lot of other people have a very good memory of this scream. It was very loud, but this friend, no memory. So these are all symptoms of what I call shame blindness. So what I want you to know, dear listener, is to beware of people with shame brain and shame blindness because of how they see the world as black and white, as all or nothing, good and bad. Their paranoia, their lack of trust, their inability to see, to hear, to remember, they are not safe people. These are things that a safe person has to be able to do. They have to be able to see you and hear you and trust you, trust that you're not out to get them, out to shame them. They need to be able to remember things they've said and done. And they need to be able to see things as they really are, in their messiness, in their complexity, with all the nuance. Those are things that safe people need to be able to do in order to fall under that category of safe people. Now, if you are a person with shame brain and shame blindness and you're listening, and you know what? I myself am a recovering person with shame brain and shame blindness myself. If you find yourself relating to those things, I don't want you to feel shame. I want to encourage you to go to a former podcast episode that I published. It's titled Dismantling Shame Residue, and it will walk you through an exercise to help dislodge the shame that you carry. And, feel free to do that for yourself. That's why I have this podcast, because everyone struggles with some degree of shame. Shame is never good. And, we might do behaviors that are shameful, but we as humans, I don't believe, are ever shameful. I believe shame is a lie, and I believe it is utterly debilitating, destructive, and causes us to get stuck and to create a false construct of the world, of ourselves, and of our story. So there's nothing good about shame. Shame only kills. Shame only harms. And so I want my dream is for every human to be free from shame. So if you know someone, if you are someone with shame brain or shame blindness, please, if you haven't already heard that episode, go ahead and listen to it and do it. Do the exercise for yourself. I've had to do it for myself multiple times. I have to do it with my clients multiple times. So do not get impatient, but please do it. It is there for this very purpose. Okay, now I want to change to a lighter topic. And this is a little essay that I wrote, and it is called The Goodness of Evil. I once met a college film professor who told me that in every movie, the protagonist has a wake-up moment. After that, I started paying more attention to movie plots, and he was right. I started thinking how ideally every person as a protagonist in their own story also needs to have a wake-up moment. Upon reflection, I realized my own wake-up moments were prompted by the wickedness of other people close to me. Such as just a few years ago when I finally woke up to how evil my father truly is, a fact that I hid from myself for the better part of 50 years. When I was able to awaken to this truth, I was suddenly able to see evil in other people that I had never seen before, but always existed. And I finally had discernment regarding who is trustworthy, who is truly a safe person. So watching the movie Wicked recently, I witnessed the protagonist, Elphaba. I witnessed her slow motion awakening, also prompted by the wickedness of those close to her. Her wake up was much like mine in that she too embodied her own power only by necessity, as she learned she couldn't trust anyone but herself. That's when it dawned on me how encountering evil is often a rocket launch pad for the power of goodness. It's a place where we come to the end of ourselves, to what we've believed our limits to be. It's an encounter that challenges us by giving us an opportunity to awaken and stretch our limbs, grow wings, and fly. Like Elphaba, I used to struggle with feeling not feeling like I fit in. I too was raised by a bear versus my physiological parents. Thank God. I know what it's like to feel alone and unwanted. You see, when you trust yourself, you do stick out in a crowd and people can find you threatening. Your aliveness is off putting to people who work so hard to disassociate from themselves. You can believe something's wrong with you, but you'd be wrong to conclude this. The truth is, you're powerful, and you might be the last person to know it. And it might take an evil encounter to push you out of the nest. But you can trust yourself and be true to yourself until the first ray of dawn reaches high noon, when everything is clear and illuminated. You learn that love is stronger than hate, and that good triumphs over evil, and that life is too alive to be extinguished. You learn that the purpose of your life is to beget more life by means of love and goodness. You learn that you are here for a reason, and you fill out your own soul in the process. You learn and you learn. With every goodbye, you learn. So I want you guys to really ponder that in light of my past podcast episodes and really take it to heart. This is meant to be an encouragement. If you haven't seen the movie Wicked, please do see it. If you've seen it once and you're not really understanding what I'm getting at, see it again. I'm planning on seeing it again myself. It was so powerful and it spoke to me on so many levels. Thanks for listening, guys. Please feel free to share this episode with a friend, subscribe to this podcast, and give me a 5-star review. I would appreciate it. All right. Bye-bye.